Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the October SWAN RFID Users Group. Just want to go around quickly, introduce everybody. I'm Ian Nosek of SWAN.
I guess I can go. I'm Stephen Schluett, the IT and System Support Manager for SWAN.
And I am no longer muted. I am Aaron Sievers. I am Technology Librarian at the Elmwood Park Public Library.
Rebecca Bartlett, Access Services Manager at LaGrange Public Library.
Jim, I think you might be muted.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jim Berg. I'm the Circulation Manager at the Linda Sokol Francis Brookfield Library.
I'm Michael Zarmek. I'm one of the system administrators here at SWAN.
And I'm Vicki Totten. I'm the consultant for IT and system support.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this morning. I think we kind of want to just start by, it's been 18 months now, give or take, of the current goings on with the pandemic. And I know some libraries, most of you are open at this point. I think all of our SWAN libraries are open to the public at this point. So I just kind of want to get a gauge on if anybody's doing anything differently with their technology than they had been previously. I know there were some changes, maybe using self-checks as staff stations while the library was closed. So I kind of want to know, are we more or less back to status quo, or are there still some changes that everybody's making, and just kind of how things are going?
I just wanted to share that at LaGrange, we're working on, we are back to normal with our self-checks. We have all 4 self-checks out. We were kind of moving them around all through the pandemic, trying to social distance, and every day they would be in a different location in the library. And now they are back. We're also in the process of building a drive-up window, similar to the St. Charles setup that has the RFID pad right next to it so that you can check out right at the window. So we're out for bid right now on that. And that's what we're going to try and keep doing. We're going to keep doing the curbside pickup all through the winter. So we've been every day moving the table inside and outside because it's, you know, with the weather. But yeah, so we're going to set it up so that we have another pseudo library. I mean, that's, you know, and that'll be out at the drive up. It's not really a drive up. It's just the corner of the library.
No, that's really exciting, Rebecca. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Hey, Rebecca, we should probably get a jump on setting up that pseudo library. So if basically just right when you know you've got a contractor that's working on that, let us know, and we can start coordinating with Cersei Dynex so they can get the pseudo library set up.
Okay, I will.
Great. Anyone else do anything differently or want to kind of comment on how they're running their technology? Jim, I know you guys just reopened in your new location pretty recently. How are things going over there?
Pretty well. I mean, we had a few glitches here and there. I mean, we just have so much new technology. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with it all. But we're doing well. I mean, we have 2 self-check machines. They're from the Envisionware. We had some issues lately. I don't know if other people have had the same problem with like calibration. I mean, once in a while, like the scanner would stop working, and we'd have to go into there and go into some setting and kind of recalibrate the screen and things like that. Or we recently had a situation where if someone is checking out basically something that's not tagged, or it's something like an interlibrary loan that doesn't have an RFID tag, they can still scan the barcode on the item and check it out, but instead of getting like a normal, when something is checked out, they get like a normal, like a green circle with the check mark inside of it, and it says checked out. But then when something that doesn't have an RFID tag, there's like a position, there's like a yellow triangle next to it, and then in the bottom it says like reposition. And so a lot of our members are confused, and the items are checked out, and I checked with Envisionware, and they said that it's basically, I don't know, this doesn't really make any sense to me, but it says that they can't really disable that message or get rid of that message without disabling the whole RFID system, and nothing would work if they disabled it. And I don't know if anyone else, if that sounds familiar, or, I mean, you know, these are brand new machines, so I'm just a little confused about some of this new technology and what's going on here. But you know, I don't know.
You know, Jim,
I will say.
go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was just gonna say, we're also an RFID or Envisionware library, and yeah, their stuff definitely can have weird quirks. We're going through a thing right now where branch manager on the server is not currently set up properly. I migrated the server a couple months ago, and I just didn't set up branch manager again because we weren't really using any of the features at that time. But now I've found out that whenever a patron using the self-check tries to email themselves a receipt, the one-stop application just crashes to desktop. And I've poked through the settings a little bit, and I can't see anything glaringly wrong. But it's also, you know, trying to make priority judgments of like, this is not an important problem for me to tackle right now. So I'll get to it eventually, but it is kind of indicative of Envisionware. Like sometimes you just run into weird quirks, and sometimes there are random things that you just can't. There was one we did it's a different service. It's their print management service, but there was one where I was trying to disable a feature, and they were just, and normally their stuff is pretty extensible. It's pretty flexible in terms of allowing you to customize, and that was one I emailed support, and they're just like, yeah, you can't do that. And I was like, well, I'm glad I have a definitive answer. I can rest easy, I guess. But yeah. So,
Yeah,
you're not alone.
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, there are some definite quirks with the Envisionware, and yeah, it's just been a kind of a learning process for everyone. And we have a DVD unlocker with the self-check machine, and we have to train a lot of our members. It's not very. I guess what I'm trying to say is some of it's not very intuitive to members and to staff as well sometimes. So they do have some problems occasionally when trying to check out a DVD that's locked, or a music CD, NEAB that's locked, and they don't know how to stick it in the machine, or they don't know whether it's checked out properly or not. But yeah, and then, I was going to say, if you don't mind me just leaving the room for just a minute, I want my colleague Yesenia was supposed to join. I'm actually working from home today, and she'll be at the library. And I believe she had registered. I just want to give her a call just to see if she's going to jump in and attend the meeting.
Jim, just really quick before you go, though,
yes.
I want to mention that something interesting that we found with One Stop is it's HTML. Ian, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's all HTML5 based.
That's right.
And so you can make a lot of customizations in it, to the point where, like, if something's not working right, in theory, you could probably go in and like suppress labels and images and notifications, which doesn't mean that it's fixed, but it is possible to kind of change the user experience just by modifying some of those settings. So, if you have anyone at the library that's particularly savvy, building web pages and things like that, they might be able to go in and make customizations to suppress errors or just kind of general annoyances, or even for that matter, make some of the language or some of the things that it's telling a patron to do more clear. So that was something that we really liked about One Stop when we evaluated it, back in 2015, is that it is so flexible and customizable. You could also do a lot of damage, playing around with that kind of stuff. But, that you just build out a test instance, you make it so that it works the way that you want it to, and then you roll it out to your production. So something to look at.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I wonder if that that yellow triangle is basically it trying to determine that X number of items was checked out, but it was only able to deactivate, 2 out of the 3 tags. So it's trying to see that there's another tag that needs to be deactivated without realizing that it wasn't an RFID item and that it was checked out with a barcode is sort of kind of what I'm suspecting might be the case. I don't have an answer for that, but that's just sort of what's been popping into my head after we discussed that last week, Jim.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's a little confusing because people I talked to, they had like no idea who, they had never seen that message before, and even the people from Envisionware, when I had contacted them, they said they had never come across that before, and they had to do some research and get back to me, and so it's, I don't know, it's a little frustrating when we keep on getting that message and we have to explain to our members, I'm sorry, please just ignore this message. It is checked out, but it's, it would be nice if it could be,
Don't give up on Envisionware support though. I have found them to be pretty awesome. And especially when you're troubleshooting something where you're just like, if you can describe it in enough detail, and take screenshots, take video of its behavior or whatever, like they will bend over backwards to help you out. Even like for a good chunk of this year, our maintenance agreement with them expired through a variety of like kind of bureaucratic foibles. And so even though we weren't covered for maintenance, like they were still helping me, which was amazing. At any point I was expecting them to be like, yeah, you need to pay up, but they were really cool about it. So
good.
Stick with them if you can.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Excuse me for just a minute. I'm just going to give her Yesenia a quick call and see if she's going to join us.
Thank you.
I'll be back in a minute.
Yep.
I have a question for SWAN staff and maybe also for Aaron. I'm looking at putting up a sign on the self-checks that if the item is from another library, it might not have a tag. Do you have anything like that, Aaron? Or does other libraries have like wording that, we've changed our wording about 20 different times and we've just never managed to say what we mean to say. It's just, I don't know how to phrase it to say like, if it's from not LaGrange,
Yeah, we sidestepped that particular issue because our hold shelf is behind the circ desk, and our video games are behind the circ desk. So if you've got stuff from anything that's coming from another library, is being handed to you by someone at the circ desk. So, because we were like, we don't know how to address this.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I like having the open holds because I think it promotes social distancing, because I feel like most of the close contact that we have with people is from the checkout. But yeah, it does seem like just basically every time somebody has an item on hold, it's just, we finally took the sign down because no matter what we said, it didn't, so now we have no sign.
Yeah.
So now we have open holds, but we have no sign. And so I just wondered if maybe it's interesting to see if other libraries have that kind of wording and say, exactly what we're trying to say.
We'd love to do an open hold shelf, but I mean, for not just for that reason, but for a couple others, like we just have not been able to swing it. But yeah. And then we get the thing where we hand someone an item from another library, we check it out to them, and it still sets off our security gates. And then there's the whole like conversation of like, oh, you're okay, it's from another library, and the patient's like, what does that matter? But so that's a whole separate issue.
When we're wearing a mask and we're shouting at them through the 3 plexiglass shields as they run out the door, it's an interesting interaction. That's kind of why I started asking about the Glenside, because every single day, I mean, Glenside, we get so many items from Glenside, but we'll talk about that later. It's just, I just wondered if other libraries maybe, and Jim, this is maybe a question for you as well. what if you guys have any signage on your self-checks that indicates that if the item is from another library, it may not have a tag. It's hard to explain to people that 22 or 25 of the SWAN, well, only 75% of the items from other libraries don't have tags.
Right. Yeah. Right now, we don't have signage. I mean, I think that's something we're just kind of mulling over. And I mean, as a rule, we generally don't like a lot of signage. I mean, I remember with the old library when we didn't have RFID, we just had one self-check machine at the checkout desk, and we did have like a little small laminated sign attached to it, and half the time people wouldn't even pay attention to that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it might be useful to have something, small but conspicuous enough that people can, I don't know, maybe with the DVD unlocker, maybe that would be nice to have something. But as of now, we don't. But I understand. I mean, I get the members are confused, and that's another thing that we're trying to figure out with with our sorter. We're still trying to get used to some of its quirks, and right now it's set up, and I believe Ian said last week that there's a setting where we can kind of customize it, where if an item is from another library, that if they stick it in there, that will go to an exception bin. I mean, right now I forgot the reason why we didn't set it up that way, but right now the items that aren't tagged or aren't tagged properly, they just get, they get like an error message, and it gets spit it back out. And so right now we have a cart next to the member induction screen chute, and it says, if it doesn't go through, just leave them on the cart or hand it to a staff member, and then we'll check them in manually. But yeah, it is a process, and it's like I said before, it's like a learning experience for everyone, trying to get used to it, and members, I mean, for the most part, they love it, but it is confusing at times when they, half the time their items go through, and sometimes they don't, and whatever.
Yeah, I know during my time at Oak Park, we did some signage just indicating that if the item had a transit label on it, to assume that it wasn't tagged and that it would need to be checked out using the barcode. The way the Biblioteca checkouts at Oak Park worked is when you went to hit the barcode scanner, it passed right over the RFID antenna anyway. So if it was tagged, it was gonna grab it that way. If not, it was gonna grab the barcode. But we did have to do some signage with photos, basically saying like, here's what the transit label looks like. I think at that time it was still the yellow band, but basically stating that if it's coming from another library, assume that it's not tagged. And then it was just kind of a happy bonus if the item was actually tagged.
Maybe like a giant poster that says, see this label? Use the barcode.
That's basically what we did. I think at one point we actually changed some of the imagery on the screen itself, basically indicating like, if it's from Oak Park, it's tagged, and you'll be able to check it out that way. If it's not, use the barcode. Either, at that point, it was also, barcode might be on the inside cover of the book or on the back of the book or the front of the book. So it was, definitely kind of a quiz for some of the patrons.
Rebecca, do you have signage on your machines?
So we went back to open holds. We stopped doing open holds during the pandemic, and then last year we went back to open holds just to kind of promote social distancing. So we have kind of gone back and forth with it. When we got the new Biblioteca self-checks, the 500, I think, whatever the cheaper one is what we got. That has a little, what am I trying to say, like a little graphic or a map on it. Sorry, I'm home with a sick kid here if you hear shouting.
No worries.
So we went back to the open holds, but then we just didn't put signs on it because the Biblioteca self-check has its own graphic, so it seems silly to also have a sign. Although now I think back and I'm like, we're telling people every single day. So I don't know. That's what I'm trying to kind of like work out in my head, like what should we say on there? You know, because, well, and again, that's why I'm coming back to that was my Glenside question. It's like, well, it does have a tag, but it doesn't scan it. So yeah, it's been a little challenging to kind of say, okay, well, you can lay it down on the table, but then people try and scan the ISBN. That's what they're like. So you hear this like beep, 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 like over, like we'll sit there at the front desk, we just hear that like over and over, and it's like, like, and then they're like, I'm trying to scan it, and they're like holding it up and they're scanning the ISBN.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we get a lot of that too.
Like,
yeah, members try to
like, are they going to figure it out, or do I need to go over there? I'll give them one more wrong scan before I go over there.
That's it. Yeah, the ISBN number that confuses a lot of people as well. We get a lot of that too, where they don't know how to position the, they don't know whether to lay it on the pad or scan the barcode, or they scan the back of the book. And,
I think
Oh, go ahead, Vicki.
I think any physical signage is completely ignored, no matter what you do.
I mean, that's how
Right in front of the face. I know, Rebecca, you had mentioned about the tape that you put on the gate by the doors too, and people don't see that. So I think that unless it's on the screen in front of them as they're checking out, a physical sign probably won't help. And having it pop up on the screen probably won't help either, but it would be, I think, a little more likely to be read. Speaking as
I'm the number one tester of signs at our library because I don't see signs anymore. I just walk right by them. So if I notice it, it's a good sign.
And that's what's kind of fun about the 500 kiosks, is that they have the image imprinted right on the table of the kiosk. So it's not even something that comes up or what. I mean, it's just, but I still don't know. Like, it has a barcode on it, and people still don't, like, they'll hold their library card up to it, but their library card will be upside down. And it's like when you're at the gas station and you're like, which way does my credit card go? I mean, they just stand there and it's like, okay, no, flip it over. I'll say flip it over, and they'll flip it sideways, and then I'm like, no, this way, and then they flip that, and it's just like, it seems very simple to me, but it's like, I don't know.
I think we need to keep in mind too that now that self-service is everywhere, from gas stations, supermarkets, everyone's using self-check everywhere you go, because, well, I mean, I certainly do, because I don't want to interact with people. I just want to check out and not worry about pandemic and stuff like that and get out of there. But I think a lot of people think, like, they walk up to a library self-check and they're like, I know what I'm doing here. And like, oh, I'm just going to scan the UPC because that's what I do. And yeah, they're just used to that. So it's probably going to become even more and more rampant in your libraries that, like, they won't know to scan the library barcode just because that's what they're trained to do at every other place that they go to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the $1 million question now, is how do we retrain patrons and tell them, like, stop, this is not the same as going to, a Target or a supermarket. This is a different process. Maybe we make the library barcodes just really, really big on the back of on the packaging.
Neon.
It's just gigantic.
Yeah, it covers it.
Yeah.
Well, it is. You're right. I mean, it's different than if you go to a grocery store. But yeah, it's. I will say that doing the open holds, I keep track of. I love statistics. We're at about 65% of our checkouts are at check. I mean, we have really increased. Like, we were way up, and then the pandemic hit, and then we were at 0 or whatever, and then we went back. So, I mean, we have really trained. It's really only just the very much more elderly, and I hate to generalize or stereotype, but there's only a small group of people that just will never do the self-check. They just don't, and they know how to do it, but they just won't.
I'm one of them. I am.
Dang robots stealing our jobs.
Hey Jim, I'm curious if you looked at any of the statistics yet. How do the checkouts compare from folks going up to a staff person to going to the self-check?
I think, yeah, I think especially for the first month, I mean, we had a sizable number. Yeah, I haven't I haven't really looked at it in too much detail at this point, but I think probably I would say we get probably more people, I would say, check out at the checkout desk and have a person and have a staffer check them out as compared to using the self-check machine. But yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, that's something that I should look into in more detail. Yeah, I think at 1 month, I don't know if it was last month or the month before, I think I have to kind of go back and kind of compare the self-check stats with like previous months, like before we moved to the new building, and see how they compared. I mean, from what I've seen so far, I mean, they seem a little higher with the new building than it was with the old building, and I think, yeah, we have two self-check machines, and one is closer to the checked out desk than the other. The one on the right seems to get more usage than the other one. But I think 1 month we had approximately, I want to say maybe over maybe 5,000, a little bit more than that, which is pretty good. I mean, I think that's a little higher than what we're normally used to. Yeah, that's something I think I need to look into more.
I wonder if that might be a BCA report that we can just have available for everyone. And Rebecca, that might be something you've already created.
We do have, you guys did create a BCA report for me. I actually get it. I have subscription to it every month. It comes to me every month. Let me see. Let me look through my email and I'll send you.
And we can post that to the forums too.
Yeah. And Rebecca, I know you said you're at about 65%. Is that closer to in line with where you were pre-pandemic, or have you reached the level that you were at previously?
We are back to, in terms of the percentage, we're still not at the number of checkouts, but in terms of the percentage of the self-checks, we're back to where we were before January to March 2020.
That's great.
So it looks like you guys have a report that's called Checkouts by Interface for last month. And this is sent to me. So what it does is it's workflows, SIP2 device, and total. So then I just do the percentage on I just calculate it. So basically I had 4,942 workflows, checkouts, 8,042 SIP2 device, which is that we have the 4 self-checks. So I get that report every month, and then I just tally the percentage, and I keep track of that month to month. So that's perfect. That's already, Jim, that's already in Blue Cloud, so you could get that, or you can set up that subscription to find out every month. Just because I have it just emailed to me automatically.
Thank you, and thanks for the info.
That's great. If we don't have anything else on that sort of general topic, I do want to discuss RFID interoperability and sort of libraries that have been having difficulty reading other libraries' tags. Rebecca, I know you had mentioned that you've received some Glenside tags and your system's not able to read that. I know Stephanie over at Batavia did indicate that they had a similar situation, but they were able to get Envisionware support. I think it was Biblioteca support rather, to install some drivers to allow them to read that tag format. I guess they have the older Danish tag model. So have you encountered any other libraries that you're having difficulty, or has it just been Glenside?
We have Biblioteca for all of our system, and we are unable to read the tags for Glenside at either I have the newer pads, at either the pads or the self-check machines. What happens is that they beep, so you know there is a tag, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't deactivate the tag. And I know that patrons have been concerned because what happens is they will put it on the self-check, they'll set it down, and it will read it and check it out to them, which is weird because that's not what it does with the other pads. But then it like sets the alarm off. So that's the concern.
Okay.
I think for some reason it seems like, and I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like it is checking it out to the patron, although it's not working at the staff. So it's working maybe at the self-checks, but not at the staff.
Interesting. And have you reached out
I'm not sure about that though.
Have you reached out to Biblioteca support regarding that?
I have not, but I'm going to send in a help ticket to see. Is it also happening with Envisionware, or is it just on Biblioteca that it's not reading it?
That's what I'm trying to determine. I haven't heard. I think you and Stephanie were the only ones who had mentioned issues with it. So I do actually want to show what we have posted now to our SWAN Sports site is an RFID libraries. So these are all of the RFID libraries, who their self-check vendor is, if they have an AMH, who their AMH vendor is, and then their RFID data model, which should be more or less up to date. I would encourage all of you to take a look at your entry and let me know if there are any errors there. This is all based on what my previous knowledge has been of how things are set up. But you can find this in technology and IT under third-party vendors and integrations. There's an RFID libraries chart now, and it is sortable. So if you want to just look to see who has an AMH, you can sort directly there, see who their vendor is rather, and the tag models. So I think that hopefully should help kind of get everybody on the same page. And again, I would encourage you to take a look at your entry and let me know if there are any adjustments that need to be made to that. But that is new to the sports site as of a couple weeks ago.
Well, and we just heard that Berwyn is also adding. So, because I just scanned a couple books yesterday that had tags on them from Berwyn.
I had heard that they were tagging. I wasn't sure where they were in the project.
It's very recent, probably as of October. So they definitely do have tags on at least some of their books now.
Okay, that's great. I'll definitely make sure I get them added to the chart, and I'll reach out to Berwyn and get some more information on their project. But yeah, so definitely take a look at this. Make sure that the information that I have listed for your library is accurate, and we can, I'm considering that sort of a working document. So as libraries are added, as changes are made, we'll just continue to update that as best we can. Which brings me then to this idea of sort of a tag exchange. So I actually did, Rebecca, request some tags from Glenside. So they actually did send over some tags for me. So what I can do, if you want, I can send a couple tags over to you for testing purposes. If you want to work with Biblioteca support with those tags and see
that would be great.
I can put those in like an inter-office delivery for you through delivery.
Yeah, that's fine. You can send it to my attention. I mean, it may be a consideration, like, in the future when we add more libraries to SWAN, or if we are going to add more libraries, sure, just to make sure that they are on that protocol. Glenside is the only one, as far as I know, that's one of the new 100.
Yeah, and they're the only ones that I'm aware of as well. And it sounds like it's just a matter of them having to do a software upgrade that might then rewrite those tags. So that obviously moving from one data model to another is a bit of a project.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know Oak Park has done it like twice. So
Yes, they have. And it's definitely a project. Luckily, only one of those required actual physical replacement of the tags. Their move from the 15693 to the 28560, they were able to set their sorter up so when it detected a tag with the old format, it would actually rewrite the tag on the fly. So I think that saved them a ton of time.
I almost wonder if, and I know this is probably kind of asking a lot of one side, but I almost wonder if the items that are sending out, if they could just fix those, and so we don't have to worry about the transits. I mean, whatever they do within their own library is one thing, but you know, the items that are sent out to the other libraries, they really need to be, I mean, if there's a way that they can fix them or like make sure they're compatible, you know, I know that's not maybe, you know,
Sure.
just because it's definitely causing issues for us. We get Glenside items every single day.
Okay.
So in the delivery. So, but yeah, I'll go ahead and I will send in a help ticket, and I'll be interested to see if the Envisionware libraries are also having the same problem, or maybe they're not. Maybe their system is able to read both types of tag or to both types of protocols.
Yeah, and that is a good question. Jim, I don't know, and Aaron, I don't know if you encountered any Glenside items at this point.
I need to take. I haven't heard anything, but then again, like I don't. You know, I think my staff is probably not going to bring it to my attention at this point unless I tell them to, because they'll just be like, "Oh, it's just a tag from another library." I need more scientific, like a spreadsheet or something of like keeping track of which tags are working and which ones aren't, because that's not something that I have been diligent enough to track. We definitely get tags fairly frequently that the barcode will scan. They'll almost always register, so you can still check the item out, but the security bit is not enabled or disabled. That's usually the culprit. So they'll set off our security gates, so that's when we get the when we're waving patrons to go ahead because you're fine. It's from another library. It's okay. You know.
And I think that's probably due to there's a tag standard, but to my knowledge, there's no standard as far as the AFI bit of what the on bit is and what the off bit is. So I think that's just, I would imagine each vendor probably uses a standardized one, but when we go cross vendor, that might not be the case. So if it's trying to deactivate an AFI bit for your specific machine, it's trying to flip the bit from 1A to 1B, or what have you, but their tag is using a different bit. I think that's where that issue is coming in. So that is certainly something that will warrant some larger discussion at some point down the road. But as long as it is checking out, that's probably 85% of it.
Yeah. It's on the patron's record. That's all that really matters.
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten too many items from Glenside, but I'll keep a lookout for them and see if there are any issues.
Yeah, and let us know. And I would encourage if you run into tags that from other libraries that aren't registering properly, post that up in the forums. We can use the thread that's currently there if we want to just have that be sort of a repository of potentially problematic tags. And I'd be curious to see if it's just a matter of the actual tag not registering properly, or if it's simply it reads, it checks out, but the security bit isn't working properly. And I also, when I visited Brookfield last week, I also Yesenia provided me some tags as well. So I have some Brookfield tags as well as some Glenside tags. So if there's any issue, Rebecca, I know you're pretty close to proximity to Brookfield. Have you encountered any issues with Brookfield tags?
The Brookfield tags are working perfectly. Brookfield, LaGrange Park, we're super excited, both on RFID, and now we just have to get Thomas Ford, Whispering Springs.
Yeah, and then you got them all.
It's just, right that's the bulk of what we get here, is the 4 libraries. There's, LaGrange Park, Brookfield and Thomas Ford. So it saves so much time that we have RFID tags on those. And I mean, I hope we can encourage more libraries to, I know it's so expensive and it requires equipment, but it's for our check-in from the delivery, it's makes it so much more efficient to have those tags. That's why I'm glad that you created this list, because I'm trying to memorize, like, okay, when I get a book, when I'm going to check it in, does it have a tag on that? Because we know then it's like, it just takes less time. So we sort of try to group our items and then check them in.
Okay, that's
Do it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the more that can be on RFID, it really speeds up that check-in process. But yeah, we're really happy about, and we're happy about Berwyn, too. So
yeah, I'll have to follow up. You don't happen to know who's heading that project over there, do you?
I am not sure, because I only hear about it, third hand. But the whole reason I got involved was because Berwyn thought that we were LaGrange Park, and they said, "Oh, we heard that you're moving to Envisionware," and I was like, this is new to me. I was very confused, Aaron. I was like, I'm sorry, did something happen and I bumped my head and I don't, yeah. So anyway, that's the only reason I knew about it, was because their director, who's I believe named Tammy at Berwyn, Tammy reached out to me and said, "Oh, I heard that you're moving to Envisionware. You're switching from Biblioteca to Envisionware." And I was like, huh. But apparently she confused us with LaGrange Park. Not that doesn't happen 10 times a day, but yeah, Tammy, I know there was just an announcement, I want to say through Rails or something, but I saw something posted on Rails that Berwyn said that they were moving, that they just started RFID.
Okay.
Well, we're definitely already, I got Blu-rays, DVDs, and books yesterday that were RFID tagged from Berwyn.
Okay, great. And those are reading properly?
They were reading fine. Yeah, no problem with the tags.
Okay, great. Sounds like I'll be taking a field trip to Berwyn at some point.
Yesenia says Deborah Bolda.
Oh, thank you, Yesenia. I will reach out to them. Great. If we don't have any other questions or comments regarding the interoperability and the tag exchange, and Rebecca, I'll get a couple tags from Glenn's site sent out to you as well, so you have them. And hopefully you can work with Biblioteca to get that squared away, both at your staff workstation and at self-check. I know Aaron wanted to discuss tag pricing and vendors and kind of where people are getting tags from.
Which apparently is kind of a moot conversation at this point, because I was like, okay, before the meeting, I should reach out to Lucas, our head of circulation, and double check how much he paid for tags the last time he purchased them. And he was like, yeah, the last time I bought tags, I bought like 6,000 tags. So we're good for like, he estimated like, we're good for about 10 years, and that's not an exaggeration. And I was just like, oh, well, all right. So yeah, anyway.
All right.
I did want to let people know I have been working with Dean Everly from Library Supply Solutions, and they have been getting us really good pricing on the tags. So I know Biblioteca was kind of going back and forth and giving us all kinds of weird pricing, and so I don't know. I've really had a good experience, but I will say that because of the plastic shortages, there are some supply issues. I had ordered 3 rolls of the square tags, and they were like, well, we can send you 1. So I think that might be going on as well.
Yeah, I think the shortages are definitely affecting everything at this point. Now, do you all buy your tags pre-encoded, or are you buying just blank tags and writing them on the fly?
We're doing blanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, I was just.
It looks like the last order that we placed was from Envisionware, and we were paying like for book tags, it was like 7 cents a tag. And then running the calculator here for disc tags, it was, that can't be right. Hang on. No, yes, because I'm doing math backwards. 50 cents a tag for disc tags, which seems a little high, but.
And I will say we probably do it a little bit backwards, where we order the tags from Library Supply Solutions and then we send them to Baker and Taylor and to Midwest Tape, and then they encode them with the pre-processing and then send. So it's sort of like this roundabout process. But yeah, when we get them, they're already like the barcode, like they're already tagged. So
we were doing that for a little while. I'm not 100% sure. I want to say we stopped, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it was like you buy the tags and you send them to your jobber. They encode it, send it back to you, and that worked out pretty well for a while. But I think eventually we kind of looked at the cost benefit and we're just like, yeah, this doesn't quite make sense for us anymore. But yeah, it was all right.
And now, with you said it was about 7 cents for book tag and 50 for the disc tag. Is that
yeah,
pretty in line, Rebecca, with what you were getting yours from your vendor from? Not to like throw that at you real quick.
I only have the gross number here. If you have a calculator handy, it's 1,041, and I think that's for 6,000. $1,041 for 6,000 tags. Is that for the square? Not for the circular. I don't have the pricing on the circular.
Oh, okay. So that's like 17 cents a tag.
Yeah, I think we're getting a really good deal from Library Supply. It's in Rochester.
Okay.
So yeah, but I haven't ordered the stingrays in a while, so I don't have the pricing on that for you.
Sure.
Handy. It's been like several years. I think we ordered a lot, like you said, like Lucas did.
Yeah.
And then, as far as Brookfield, are you getting your tags directly from Envisionware at this point?
No, that's a good question. I'm not entirely sure. I think maybe Sonia can kind of jump in and answer that.
Well, that was definitely one of those situations that took a while to shake out after we did our initial migration, because your RFID vendor will give you a bunch of tags to tag all of your stuff, and it all kind of gets lumped into your installation fees and all that. And it isn't until you've exhausted your initial supply and you go to purchase again that it really things start to get put in perspective of like, oh, okay, this is a typical like resupply cost of a resupply, that kind of stuff. So you might still be a little early in it where like it's not it's a number that doesn't make sense yet.
Oh yeah, Sonia says we're still using up the ones that we purchased.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's still pretty. You're the new guys in town, so yeah. Great. Any other comments or discussion on tags? What I'd like to show is I did visit Brookfield last Friday. I took a couple photos of their system, so figured I would just show it off real quick.
Ooh, fancy.
Can everybody see? Oh, they see the weird one. Hang on.
Whoa, those look space age.
We'll just do it this way. So they have it's single item return that is currently, as Jim mentioned, configured to reject items that are not tagged, and they will be placed on a cart. I know there was some discussion last Friday about potentially changing that. Has there been any further discussion with that, Jim?
No, not yet.
Okay.
You know, Sunny and I have to kind of sit down and discuss that. But yeah, I'll let you know if that changes.
Great. And then it might be a little tricky to see, but in this inset photo of the screen, it will display the item as it's checked in. And when the user is done, they can print a check-in receipt right, directly from the induction point, which is quite nice. Yeah, so this is their induction point for patrons. To the right, there is a little window that will peek back into the workroom, so anybody who's interested can take a look in the back and see what the sorter looks like, which is always fun for people. It's a lot easier than sticking their head through the little return window to try to see what's going on. And then here's their backroom sorter. It's a 5-bin sort. And then, Jim, I don't recall how you have the sorts configured, not that we need to go through everything, but with the 5-bin, do you know about how many of the how many item types are going into a single bin?
Well, let's see. Well, we have the 5 bins. We have one bin that has the in-transit items or hold items, and then we have one for just adult books, and then the one next to that we have one for children's books, and then we have one for all AV, and then the last one is for like exceptions or teen or young adult or teen books that fall in there, and usually things they're like oversized books that are not really readable. They usually fall in there, but yeah, that's how we have it broken down right now. At some point we might go into further categories, but
yeah, especially if that last bin ends up becoming just a general exceptions bin. You probably won't want to sort material, checked-in material to that, because that would become a little tricky. But yeah, and then they have a dedicated staff induction point over next to the window. So that I would imagine is making processing of your delivery pretty easy at this point. Great. I did take a quick video. Hopefully this plays. So yeah, it's a nice, it's a pretty compact system. Definitely quiet. So yeah, I would say this is and this is manufactured by Lingso, correct?
yes.
And yeah, it's a nice compact system that seems like it would be pretty easy to integrate into a regular workroom. If I know AMHs tend to be an issue for libraries with small footprints, but this definitely is a small footprint for their sort. It does not take up a ton of space in their workroom at all. So yeah, I mean, have you been happy with how Lingso has? Did Lingso actually do the installation, or did they contract out with Envisionware at all?
They came. Lingso came out and did I believe they did the whole installation, and then they kind of trained us on that. Yeah.
Great. And yeah, that's been. Do you have any other kind of comments on how that process has been going?
It's been working pretty well. Like with the self-check machines, I mean, there are glitches here and there. I mean, we had, I don't know, it just seemed, it was a little frustrating because it seemed like everything was happening at once and everything was going wrong, just briefly. But yeah, occasionally it was frustrating because all of a sudden, like the machine would stop working, and and we'd end up having to call Lingso to find out their support team to find out what's going on with it. You know, I mean, some of it was just minor things, but yeah, it was just. I mean, one point we had to replace. They replaced a part for us. I mean, it's brand new, so it was like like the electrical unit or power unit. I'm not sure if I'm describing it correctly, but there was one part where they had to ship out to us, and we had to kind of install it ourselves, and that was kind of a tricky process trying to do that. But I mean, overall, it's been fine. But yeah, there just occasionally would stop working. I mean, sometimes there's just a simple fix where like an item was just stuck on the conveyor belt thing, and we just had to remove it and fix the power buttons and or check the bins to see if they were too full. But then there were other times where it just everything seemed normal. When we got like error messages, or they showed us how to. There's a database where we can enter the IP addresses for both the staff induction and the member induction, and that will give you like an error message, and that can sometimes give you an indication about what's going on or what's wrong with the system with the sorter. But fortunately, I mean, I was so happy that everything went well with our grand opening, and we had a couple of sneak peek events, and everything worked wonderfully during those events. So I was very happy with that. It just seemed after that, like a month or so after that, once in a while, we would have some glitches, and then one time, I think the last time we had something kind of weird happen, it was I think about maybe a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there's a big thunderstorm in the area. I think there was a big Comcast outage, and we had to like reboot the system, reboot the sorter, and I think I had to call them because it just stopped working. But I think I remember what it was. I think it was just I think I kind of jumped the gun when I called them, and I think it turned out it was just I think the power, there might have been a power surge or something happened where the power might have flickered off and on, and the emergency stops were implemented in the sorter, so it just stopped working. And then like my staff, when I came in the afternoons, they just said, oh by the way, they just said, oh, a few minutes ago it was just working, now it stopped working. And then and then the member, on the member side, there's a warning that says, for error message that says, sorter's not working, please use another sorter, or check with a staff member for assistance, and things like that, little things like that. But yeah, I mean, we're not 100% happy with EnvisionWare and some of the things that we're encountering, but yeah, we definitely learned a lot over the past few months. Yeah.
And then Lingso is a European company?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And do they have, and I assume they have some sort of office in the States here, or is it?
Yes. Yeah, I don't think they have any in Illinois, but I think basically we've been dealing with the New York office.
Okay. That's good, at least. I know some of those vendors, they're like, yeah, our offices are in Denmark, and that's it. So it's always nice when there's local representation, or at least local-ish representation. So,
just a question, Jim. Are you guys, if you're allowed, are you letting patrons check in their items through that induction, or have you had any issues with people like returning items that are damaged or anything like that? Or is that, I mean, I guess you can tell who the best patron was. But.
Yeah, not too often. That happened, I think maybe once or twice at the most, where someone did return something that was like stained or damaged, and we did end up finding out who it was. But we haven't had too many instances of that. But yeah, yes, people can return items through there, and I think at first people were we're limiting, or we weren't accepting book donations, and people were trying to throw their book donations in there. That's one good thing that it, I had the message, so it just they weren't able to do that, so that was helpful. But yeah.
What does it do if somebody returns something that was like their own book that wasn't a library item? What does it say something on the screen?
Yeah, it'll come up with the border, like the screen is like red, and it will have like a message that says something like, item cannot be identified. Please check with the staff member for assistance. I think I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I think that's
I like that. People return items in our book shop all the time that are their own items.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, it spits it right back out, so that's good. But yeah, if there aren't any problems, yeah, it'll just spit it back out.
Yeah.
With that. Yeah, I think what you did.
Go ahead.
No, I just wondered if I hadn't heard that any other libraries were doing that. I think that's kind of an interesting experiment that that Brookfield is doing it that way. I don't know that there are other libraries that are letting people check in other than on the mobile app or something.
Great. Let's see. Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up, or any burning questions that haven't been answered thus far?
I was going to ask you. I know this came up in our SWAN Circ advisory or SWAN Circ meeting the other day. Ian, could you talk a little bit more about the mobile app and activating that checkout and how that works with RFID tags? I know you mentioned it kind of briefly in our SWAN Circ meeting.
Sure. So the mobile app has a self-check module that can be enabled. That is free to the libraries to use. However, there is an RFID implementation that can be put together there. That is an additional cost. For that reason, we haven't done any testing with it. But the theory is that it will use the NFC reader on the mobile device to check out based on the RFID tag rather than scanning the barcode with the device's camera. Oak Park has something similar. Actually, Oak Park is using both. They've enabled the mobile app, and they also have a third-party app called MeScan. And I went over to Oak Park a couple months ago to test that out. And despite the fact that they're an RFID library, they're using MeScan only with barcodes as well. I don't know what the state of their security gates are, but I know for a while they had them shut off just because they were causing more problems than solutions. What I would say is, if you're interested in trying out the checkout feature in the mobile app, to open a ticket, we can certainly get that set up for you, and then it might just be a matter of RFID libraries to just indicate to users that they might need to bring their items to a service desk to have their security tags deactivated. But it has been a pretty smooth process rolling it out. We haven't heard many complaints regarding how it functions for patrons. The camera scanning of the barcodes is really quick, very accurate. It's so fast, in fact, that when I was creating documentation for it, it was very difficult to get a screenshot of it attempting to read a barcode without it checking out immediately. So it does work quite well. So yeah, I would encourage you, if you want to, even just check it out. It does work really well. So Aaron, you might be muted.
Stuff is that I have to assume that's Android only, right?
No,
iOS.
It's iOS as well.
Oh no.
Yeah, so it's just built into the SWAN mobile app. Yeah, we can hear you.
Anyway.
Yep. So yeah, it's built into the SWAN
Okay.
mobile app. There's just a mobile checkout section, and it triggers the camera, and it's just a matter of scanning, and the items check out directly from there. So it is a nice feature to have, even if you're already a library with self-checks enabled. It just offers your patrons an additional method to check material out, especially if there's ever lines at the self-check, or if somebody just wants to run in, grab an item off the shelf, check it out real quick, and run out. They don't have to go to a designated self-check in order to circulate the item and take it home.
I think that's interesting. I feel like we've spent so much time teaching our patrons how to use the self-check.
Additional cost for
sorry,
the
Aaron,
NFT
I think there's a bit of a delay. I heard additional costs, so I'll run with that. There is an additional cost to implement RFID, and again, we haven't tested that on our side yet, but that might be something that, if there's interest in looking at the RFID, that certainly something that we should be able to do some testing with if there is significant interest in doing so. But for the barcode only, it's free to the libraries to use. And I said all that as Aaron left. So.
Aaron looks like he's back. Aaron, are you with us?
But yeah, Aaron, there's no additional cost to implement the camera scanning. There is a cost associated with RFID, and that's not something that we have tested at SWAN yet.
Okay. And the RFID, that additional cost would just would be specific to the library that wants to turn it on?
Correct.
Okay.
So, and again, if there's definite interest in that, that's certainly something that we can begin exploring. At this point, it's been I think we have 11 libraries that are configured with the mobile checkout, and none of them have expressed interest. I don't think any of them are, with the exception of Oak Park, are RFID libraries at this time. I'd have to double check my list. But for the most part, they're just using it as ultimately a free self-check opportunity.
Cool. Yeah, I thought for sure there would be strings attached to all that, but no, it sounds like the real deal.
Yeah, it's quite nice. It works very well, and it's pretty straightforward for patrons.
Cool.
I had an initial quote here for RFID services for the mobile checkout. I got it some time ago. Yeah, it looks like Cersei Dynex had originally proposed, and this wouldn't necessarily be the final number, but for the first year, which would include the setup, would be about $1,800. And for the second year, just for the license maintenance, it would be about $1,500. So again, if there's interest, we can continue to pursue that. That was just the initial quote. I'm sure we can get them down a little bit on that, but that was like basically if just one library were interested.
Okay.
But even at that quote number, that's a pretty inexpensive way to do RFID checkout from a mobile device.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to make it tricky the next time I go to replace our self-checks, and it's like, do we want to pay all this money to replace these 2 physical machines, or we just let everybody do it?
Yep.
And exactly. I feel like, didn't you say something in a while back about you had to be physically located in the library to check items back in or something? Or what? It's something about like you can renew it, or, because I feel like we have some people who would game the system.
Sure. So you do need to be physically located in the library to use the feature. And it's basically, it's configured with geolocation. There are no beacons involved. I do believe there might be a beacon required for RFID, but again, that's not something we've done a ton of exploration with at this point.
And I just want to note that we have check-in disabled right now, and I think we always urge libraries that are interested in check-in for their self-checkout. So to introduce that feature, we try to remind everyone that it can create complications for transiting and actually getting the material back properly. So if you're interested in going down that route, then we could take a look at it, but we would be inclined to leave that disabled just because there are so many additional complications that come with our consortium and the workflow of transiting items.
Yeah, not just transiting, but also triggering holds. If we get into a self-check-in situation, you're putting a lot of faith in your patrons to follow the prompts, or check the item in and then make sure it gets to the right location. There's it's kind of a logistical nightmare for the check-in. But the checkout, go ahead, Stephen.
Oh, for that matter, I was just going to say we've had experiences with other libraries that have done check-in briefly, and there would be an issue where the patron that's receiving the item, it would make it appear that the item was available for that patron. So it would trap that hold. But the item had not transited. It was not at the next library or anything like that. So it was kind of skipping some steps.
Interesting.
But yeah, the checkout is restricted to being physically present in the location. It uses location services on the mobile device to confirm that you're indeed in the correct location. I did some testing when we were first implementing this and added my physical geolocation to the app, and then I kind of gradually bounced that down the block, and I ended up to be within a block and a half of my location where it would work, and then beyond that, it would basically say you're not physically present in the library. So you definitely have to be near the library. Certainly for checkout, you probably need to be in the library to get material to checkout. And then as far as renewals, that would just happen through the app, through your standard renewal process. And then checking in is just a matter of bringing the material back at that point.
So would that prohibit using using that method for doing some kind of mobile circ? Like, we're all going to go down to the park and I'm going to bring a book cart and check out books to kids in the park?
So that would be something that we would need to, again, we haven't really addressed a situation like that. I think mobile staff would still be the preferred method for doing so if you're doing outreach, just because that is restricted to staff use. But in theory, if there was going to be outreach to a school and material was going to be brought there, and you wanted students to be able to check out using their mobile device as opposed to using mobile staff. If that was a permanent or semi-permanent location, we could add that geolocation.
Okay.
But that would not, we wouldn't want to use that for something that was like a one-off, like, oh, we're going to go to the farmer's market. In that instance, mobile staff would still be the preferred method.
Gotcha.
Any other questions about Blue Cloud Checkout? And again, if you're at all interested in checking out the utility, just open a ticket with us, and we're happy to get that configured for you. I know I did note this in the Circ Advisory meeting, and I will note that as well. It is due to the geolocation setting. It is restricted to not just being physically present, but also your patrons. So Rebecca, for instance, if a LaGrange Park patron came to LaGrange, they would not be able to use the feature as it would need to be A, enabled for that library, and B, we would need to then add all the locations to everybody's, and it hasn't gotten that ubiquitous yet. I think if it becomes more heavily used throughout our libraries, that's something that we could address. But at this time, it's restricted to being physically present in the library building and for home library use.
Cool.
I just had one other question that I wanted to throw out to the other libraries that have been on. I know Aaron's in here, but I think you've been on RFID longer than us. We started in 2015 in April. We are noticing that like our tags, everything was tagged in 2014, starting in about September. Our tags are just like dying. I had always thought that RFID tags were for life, but it seems like they are a lot of our tags are having to be ripped off and retagged. So I don't know if you guys have experience, like, I mean, like we physically just have to remove them and put a new tag on it. So I don't know if you've experienced that.
I don't, at least I need to check with Lucas, but from what I understand, it has not happened in any kind of a systematic way. Like we definitely get tags that are fried out and it's just like, this tag just won't read anymore for whatever reason. But those usually tend to be one-offs. But yeah, I haven't heard of like, you know, you got a bad batch or whatever, like all these are failing after a few years, but yeah, I'm not sure.
We're noticing it more with the Stingray tags, which are on we only have them on the DVDs, the CDs, and the Blu-rays. The Blu-rays are newer because that's a newer collection for us, so we're not seeing that as much. But yeah, it does seem like, you know, we're starting to see with the AV items that it's just no longer reading. It's harder, obviously, to peel off a Stingray tag than it is to like chip away at a square tag and take that off. But yeah, I had always thought Biblioteca, you know, they've always sold us a bill of goods. You know, they was like, oh, it's forever, you know, lifetime. And I was like, how long is a lifetime for a book? I don't know, but
yeah.
Yeah. So,
did they mean lifetime for the item or did they mean lifetime for humans?
I have heard that, and again, the technology's changed to tags used to burn out a lot faster. I know when Oak Park started, it was 2003, so they were like right on the cutting edge of RFID technology, where the tags used a tag talk first method, where the tags were constantly saying like, I'm a tag, I'm a tag, I'm a tag, I'm a tag, and just waiting for a reader to find them. Whereas tags have now moved to a reader talk first, where the tags just are dormant until they're activated by a reader. What I've heard is an average lifetime of 10,000 reads per tag, which theoretically should outlive the material that is tagged. But again, that's just a number that I've heard kicked around. I don't think that that's anything, you know, necessarily baked into the tag where it's like, oh, I've been read 10,000 times, so I'm going to.
Well, and it could be also wear and tear. I mean, we have DVDs in our collection, like Finding Nemo, that have checked out 500 times. So, I mean, you know, it could be that as people are slamming them down into whatever DVD player they have, you know, it's just physically damaging the tag.
Yeah, I think
you have those.
Yeah, you're more likely dealing with some sort of physical damage to the tag. It might not even be visible than the actual tag itself, you know, the chip dying.
Yeah, I would say of all the tags to have a problem, that's not surprising to me, because those are definitely the ones that get, you know, fed through slot loaders and put into drives that spin and get hot, and you've got the heat factor just kind of generally degrading the tag maybe more prematurely. And then if it was like a bad batch or whatever, like maybe they're more susceptible to that kind of wear and tear. But yeah, that stinks. I'll check with Lucas and see if he's got any war stories, but nothing that made it sway to my ears.
It definitely seems like the DVDs more than anything else, because probably the books, we throw them away if they're going to be checked out that many times.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and again, I think that, you know, the fact that the DVDs are physically spinning constantly and things like that, I think will potentially cause premature wear and tear to the tag.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Any other open discussion, questions, comments?
Well, I was wondering. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jim.
No, please go ahead.
Thanks. I was wondering if anyone had any tips for like cleaning the self-check machines. I mean, right now, I mean, once in a while, I would use like a Microsoft cloth and just wipe them, or and the pads itself. I mean, I don't know if anyone has like a normal routine that they use for that, or if you have any recommendations for anything, you know, because, you know, they obviously they do get a lot of use, and, you know, people's fingerprints down there, and, you know, we do try to clean it, but I don't know if anyone has any tips or anything you'd like to share.
Yeah, I don't have any hot tips other than what you already mentioned. I have noticed things to look, well, you have the nice kind of all-in-one units, but like I have noticed on some of our, because we just have regular computers running, you know, Windows and their off-the-shelf software, and I've noticed like cables starting to fray after being in the same position for years, and like stuff like that. So that's just kind of like, yeah, this computer has been awkwardly kept in this specific configuration for years, and now it's kind of weird. But yeah, you've got the sleek hardware, you don't have to worry about that as much.
I feel like we just use Lysol on everything, and that's probably not good. We're so worried about viruses and everything, so we do clean it up, but maybe once the pandemic is over, years from now, we'll stop using Lysol on everything.
Well, I have my amusing. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I you know, I always remember talking to Marson over at Oak Lawn, and he was like, well, you know, the older self checks, the 3M ones, they will never die. Like they will never die. And you'll have network problems, and you'll have you know, Windows 7 versus Windows 10 compatibility, but the physical like box that those are in, I mean, that is just, it's gonna keep ticking forever. So but yeah, those are all like self-contained. Like it looks very like old but also futuristic, if that makes sense. But those are like, you know, we just wipe them down. But then the new Biblioteca, the 500, it's got more of a glossy screen. I don't even know, I'm not using the right words, but it's got like more of a, it doesn't have that blocky kind of screen on it. But yeah, we've just definitely just been using Lysol to wipe everything.
Yeah, the more wipeable, the better.
Rebecca, just going back on what you were saying about the old 3M units, we found Sugar Grove had some ancient 3M units. And Ian, were they running Windows 7 or was it XP? Okay.
Actually, no, they were XP, I believe. They were really old.
Yeah, we're still running. They told us at Biblioteca that like we're still running. We lost one because one just died. And then we have 3. And so we have 1 of the Biblioteca 500, and then we have 3 of the old 3M self-checks. And those are still running Windows 7 as far as I know, because Biblioteca told us it was going to be $2,000 a machine to upgrade, to buy, because we would have to like do this whole other upgrade. And I know some libraries have done that. I'm pretty sure Downers Grove upgraded to Windows 10 and they spent the money. But I was like, we might as well buy a new self-check if you're going to pay $2,000 to upgrade it. So we're just still running. So, I mean, it's very similar to what Jim just said. Every time we have a power outage, we have to reboot everything on the self-checks. We just, it can't really handle power outages right now.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing with the Sugar Grove self-checks is they were completely out of support, not out of service. And they were having an odd issue where every time a patron went to check out an item, was it not checking up to the account, Ian, or it was like 6 months ago? So
yeah, I to be honest, I don't recall what the situation was over there.
But it basically what it boils down to is just these were so old and so out of support that there was just nothing that we could figure out to fix them. They were just not checking out properly and not circling the items properly. So we ultimately recommended, I think we moved them over to the mobile checkout. So we got them set up on that.
Yeah, and I think that's a good option. I mean, I know for us, like the machine was fine. It was just we had no screen anymore on the fourth self-check, and so you can't use it, obviously, but the screen just burned out, and the rest of the self-check was running fine, but it just had no screen, so we got rid of one. But I think those 3M self-checks, they're just going to run forever. Like, as long as we can keep that monitor still working. It's so self-enclosed, like it's just like one unit, and it has no moving parts, pretty much. I mean, sort of, it does if you use the receipt printer. But
I will say that you want to find a way to get those to Windows 10 or a later operating system version, just because they're not going to receive any sort of security patches or anything like that. And that's since January 2020. So if you've got self-checks out there, just remember that those are just as susceptible to breaches as anything else running Windows 7.
Yeah. It's been definitely, I know it's been an issue with like when we upgrade, what do you call it? I'm drawing a complete blank. What, Novelist? Yeah, the Novelist is like a 20-step process to get that right, because they're still on Windows 7. I don't know. We'll think about it, but we're just sort of waiting for it to break, but it may be years. It was nice to get the new one, though. That one, like right as you walk in the front door of the library, we have the brand new one, and people really like it.
Put that one front and center, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
one.
It's like a 500, and that one's really, it's just very spare. It's a very minimalist design. It just looks nice. And the other ones are sort of like in the back,
For sure.
But they're in use all the time because we have open holds. We have 2 self-checks in the front, one on the second floor and one in children, that's adult, and then one in children's. The ones in the lobby are in use all the time, both of them. I mean, there's always somebody in there using it. So that's why I think our self-check percentage is so high, just because with the open holds. But yeah, that does bother me, Steve. I know you're doing a huge project to like upgrade our security and get us like out of the study or whatever. That does bother me that we don't have. As far as right now, it's still the 3 of them are still on Windows 7.
Yeah, I've still got 2 on Windows 7. I was waiting for a grant to come through to buy new ones, and I just found out that that particular grant we did not get. So it's like, all right. I can't kick this can down the road any further. Time to pay for it ourselves, I guess, if I have to.
Yeah.
The good thing is we found a few articles recently where Microsoft might still be offering that free upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 10. Let me see if I can find it.
Well, one of my self-checks is so old it won't even run 64-bit operating systems. So like it has to go. It's like there's no So it was mostly just a matter of who's going to pay for it.
I'm pretty sure, I thought Downers Grove had 9. Is that right? 7 or 9? It was some odd number, but I think they paid to upgrade all of them. Because they had the 3M ones that we did. They, I'm pretty sure they spent like $14,000 or whatever. It's like $16,000 to do it.
Wow.
I feel like that's what Amy told me last time I talked to her about it. But they just, they really wanted to be on Windows 10. So
I mean, but man, that's a chunk of change.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Well, and like I think we bought the new self-check for $1,500. So, I mean, I don't know, but maybe it was a little more than that. Maybe it was like $2,300. But yeah, the newer ones. That's what we're just going to buy new ones when they die. But it's every time we have a power outage, we sort of get to the point where we're like, is one of them going to go out? Sometimes they come back. They come back in different order. Sometimes the one on the second floor, it's.
In case anyone's interested, I included the link in the chat Just one of the articles that we found that says you could still potentially get Windows 7 or Windows 10 to upgrade your Windows 7.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Well, anything else anybody wants to bring up? If not, I'll stop the recording and we can, hang out for a couple minutes if there's anything else that we want to discuss. That's off record or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.